Nice.
Don't do anything stupid.
Me? Never.
Another year, another zombie outbreak, and this time Leon is not only hot to trot, but he has a new partner in zombie-slaying path-traced action. Now we know what to expect with our Raccoon City adventure, but just how much life is left in the RE engine for our 9th entry in this 3-decade-old franchise? Let's take a bite of the good stuff. Now, the RE engine is approaching its 10th birthday, almost as old as the MT Framework engine it replaced with 2017's Resident Evil 7, with the Biohazard series celebrating 30 years this year, coinciding with this new game being set 30 years after Resident Evil 2. I know, Leon, I feel even older. But like Leon, it's continued to age with grace, learning new tricks now in its PC and current-gen console-only release. Yes, ray trace reflections were added to previous games post-launch, but it is improved here and exclusive to PC, now also supports full path trace lighting. But what does that actually mean? Well, lighting, shadows and detail are all ramped up dramatically, with the core RE engine always being built around and to replicate film quality lighting, physically based material reactions and photogrammetry, aka digitized assets for old money. Always delivering a realistic, gritty but stylish look that balances film and fiction very well, with a keen focus on faces, eyes, flesh, gore and more so recently hair. Building on RE4 Remake's hair splines, which were more an afterthought, here though, Leon and new protagonist Grace, and even some enemies and monsters all have polygon-based hair geometry that collides, self-occludes, and supports subsurface scattering, which is clearly the baseline for the models and art design team. The old card system is still present, but unlike the previous game, the visual change is too stark, and it's very hard to go back once enabled. Ah, L'Oreal, you were always loved.
Hey, over here.
Now, lighting-wise, it still supports old-fashioned rasterized lighting, ambient occlusion, cube maps, shadow maps, screen space reflections, and great art. In fact, art and lighting are still the main pillars of this title. Vitally so for consoles, as only the PS5 Pro supports any ray tracing at all, with base PS5, Series X and S and Switch 2 only offering the baseline option of rasterized lighting. Not so for PC, where we can bump it up to ray tracing in two guises, normal and high, and then the top-end path trace choice, which is exclusive to Nvidia cards, and adds a few more features I'll get to in a moment. Now, ray tracing only adds ray trace reflections, with planar surfaces like wet signs or bathroom mirrors, glass and car windows, all reflecting both static and dynamic objects, such as yourself, zombies, or busy suit men and women going about their working day. Now, the two modes really only seem to differ in rays per pixel and possibly the denoising filter, with reflected objects from within the BVH proxies being slightly more stable and less jittery. Path tracing is the holy grail, offering a full lighting facelift over the raster-based light and shadow system. Reflections remain, although now much more stable and cleaner, helped by Nvidia's ray reconstruction now being engaged by default in this Nvidia exclusive option. Now, sadly, this is disabled and locked out of just the ray tracing mode, which is a shame, as it makes the increase to path tracing far bigger than they would ordinarily be. As you can see here on these grills on the floor, with the rain hitting them, very noisy and bubbling and sizzling in terms of the image quality, and completely stable, solid and well blended because of ray reconstruction here. I hope this is patched soon to add the option to enable this without path tracing turned on, as that is not always a viable option. Now, in addition to the enhanced reflections here, we also see more accurate and dynamic light bounce. Lights have a much longer cascade range and interact with more objects and characters. They create more shadows and have a greater level of light sources throughout. We see far more and much better shadows and self-occlusion on objects, and even very small triangle objects such as these cherubs on the door. Colour tones and surfaces have a greater range of reactions and subtlety between wet and dry, light or dark, and more, and all shadows now exhibit soft contact hardening and are more stable. And overall, surfaces and colour tones in many scenes can look different with path tracing enabled due to all these light elements factoring into the scene. Greater and more precise diffuse lighting is on top of that, along with emissive lights from shop windows hitting Grace's hair and clothes, and far greater accuracy in shade, irradiance, bounce, material reactions from wet skin, hair, brick, wood, or even disemboweled intestines, which in horror games works incredibly well here, emphasising atmosphere, building tension, and improving material, world, and model quality. Now, the animation team in Capcom RE Studios deserve a big round of applause yet again and are top tier in the field. Again, we see the same superb physics-based locomotion and reaction system, covering many enemy types, limbs, inverse kinematics, and these are all mixed with canned animation sets from Leon doing a Jean-Claude Van Damme roundhouse before stomping on a zombie's head, or a zombie doing his best Ash impersonation with a chainsaw, clearly inspired by Sam Raimi's comedic style of speeded up action, as it fails to understand the mechanical beast it has in its hands and is then dragged across the floor, always aiming for you, mind, before return to the grave minus a limb or two. Now, incidental animations like this are great, as are the motion and performance capture in gameplay and real-time cinematics. Facial models remain excellent, and facial bone rigs are generally very good, but they can be the weakest aspect at times and even reduced over prior games, leading to stiffer faces and reduced emotion at points in the game, but it can be at a mixed level. The game also uses some level of environmental destruction, and although not procedural, is dynamic and creates a convincing level of physics within canned sections. Now, one area that is weaker is the big reduction in procedural gore and zombie reactions from the RE2 remake. Even RE3 was cut back, and here again we see some level of procedural limb, torso and head process, but this is, sadly, significantly reduced over the RE2 remake, confirming what I noted in my preview last month, which looked to be the case. However, what remains is still excellent, as are models, environments, hair and faces during the gameplay and real-time cinematics. RE Engine does continue to impress, although it hasn't moved up significantly in the last couple of years. Most of those benefits here are coming from the ray tracing and path tracing additions on PC.
Ashcroft, FBI.
FBI? What are you doing here?
Someone kidnapped me.
Victor, get in.
I don't know.
Well, we should leave.